Well, today is June 1st. It's a Tuesday, and we are continuing our chronological study of the Scriptures with today's devotional titled, Learning from Others' Failures. Our Scripture reading is Joshua chapters 15 and 16. Well, Caleb, our spy, who along with Joshua had been the ones that brought back a faithful and true report, Caleb had stated his claim for the land that Moses had promised him by the word of the Lord in Joshua chapter 14. Now, in Joshua 15, the tribe of Judah, which was Caleb's tribe, as well as the most prominent of the tribes, receives its land. Let me enter into this passage of Scripture today with you. Now, Joshua 15, I've given the subtitle, The Inheritance of the Tribe of Judah. Now, the boundaries of Judah's territories are given beginning with the southernmost point of the Dead Sea, Joshua chapter 15, 2 through 4, extended northward along the eastern shore of the Dead Sea to where the Jordan River flows into the Salt Sea. Now, going northwest, Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem, was also included in Judah's land, and it extended north, and then finally northwest, the western border of Judah would be the Mediterranean Sea. Now, it's a very large parcel of land, and bequeathing and befitting the most prominent of the tribes of Judah. Now, in Joshua chapter 15, verses 13 through 19, we have where Caleb now describes the challenge. We find the Scripture describing Caleb's challenge to claim his inheritance as it is chronicled. Now, true to his vow that we read in Joshua 14, 6 through 15, Caleb, along with other warriors of Judah, drove the sons of Anak out of his land. And Caleb then enlisted men to assist him in claiming Kirjath-Sepher as part of his inheritance, and he promised to give his daughter Achash to be the wife of the man who aided him. Now, Caleb's own brother, Othniel, conquered that city, and Achash became his wife. Now, notice this, that there is no law forbidding this relationship in the law of Moses. Now, Othniel would become Israel's first judge after Joshua's death. Now, listed in the balance of Joshua 15 are the names of the cities, the towns of Judah. There are many of them. I'll not take time to rehearse them, but we have them, the cities in the south, the city in the lowlands, the city in the mountains, and then were also some cities in the desert that are listed. Now, they're only stated in one verse, and perhaps something that might seem inconsequential as you're reading the Scriptures today, but we find a failure in the midst of Judah's successes. We read in Joshua 15, verse 63, these words, "As for the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the children of Judah could not drive them out. But the Jebusites dwell with the children of Judah at Jerusalem unto this day." Now, let me share why that's important. The Jebusites were the longtime inhabitants of Jerusalem. And when the Scripture says they could not drive them out, understand this: if they had depended on the Lord and the Lord's blessing and the Lord's power, they would have been able to drive them out. But Judah failed. And it is that failure that you and I will see later in our study of the Scriptures that will come back to haunt the children of the next generation, that is, the children of the tribe of Judah. Now, Joshua 16, we have the inheritance of the tribe of Ephraim that is also presented. Joseph, the 11th of the 12 sons, born to Jacob, the father of Israel's 12 sons, Jacob had adopted Joseph's sons who had been born in Egypt. Now, why? Well, God promised Joseph a double portion, a double blessing. Now, remember, Joseph was the oldest son of Jacob's favorite wife. And so in that sense, he had that honor. But in a very true sense, Joseph is a man that we read in the scriptures. Never is there anything contradictory or critical said of him. In other words, God honored Joseph for his faithfulness, and Jacob, his father, blessed him with a double portion by adopting his sons Ephraim and Manasseh and giving them an inheritance in the promised land. In other words, Ephraim and Manasseh would in their own right become two of the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, understanding Joseph doesn't have a tribe named after him because he was given a double blessing. Both Ephraim and Manasseh, his sons, would have an inheritance. Also a reminder that the Levites did not have an inheritance in the land because God had chosen them to be his servants and to be the tribe of his priests. Now, with that said, let me continue. As we look at the balance of Joshua 16, beginning at verse 5 and through verse 10, we have the inheritance of the tribe of Ephraim that's delineated in that passage of Scripture. There's also another statement that is made, and that is that the population of Ephraim was so large that additional cities in Manasseh's territory were bequeathed to the tribe for its people. Now remember, we're looking at the half-tribe of Manasseh. Half the tribe has already received their land on the other side, east side of Jordan. Now we're looking at the half of Manasseh that is receiving their inheritance on the western side, the original land that the Lord had promised Israel. Now, we're going to notice in our next devotional and consider the lands assigned to the tribe of Manasseh, Joseph's firstborn son. Now, I'm going to close with a couple of thoughts. We've already considered Judah's failure to drive the Jebusites out of Jerusalem. Unfortunately, Ephraim also failed to claim all the land that God had promised them for an inheritance. We read Joshua 16 and verse 10 that they drove not out the Canaanites that dwelt in Gezer, but the Canaanites dwell among the Ephraimites unto this day, and the Canaanites served under tribute. Now, we're not told why Ephraim failed. That failure is not identified. However, regardless of the reason, now listen, it was inexcusable, and the effects of the failure to drive the Canaanites out would prove tragic for their children. Remember, the Canaanites were the original occupants of the land there. They were idol worshipers, and their influence would lead the children of Ephraim down a path of sin and wickedness. We're reminded today that the sins of a father carry to the third and the fourth generation. You and I should take a lesson from this. Of failure in spiritual things will surely haunt not only ourselves, but also our children and our children's children. Ephraim and the tribe of Judah would both come to regret the failure to drive the heathen out of their land. God bless you, my friend. Have a great day. And it's a joy to be able to continue this chronological study of the Scriptures together. Bye-bye.